Throughout the Bible, it clearly states that it takes a village to raise a child. But what do you do when society seems to turn their back on juveniles like there's no worries of tomorrow? The children are our future. In the next few minutes, I will be sharing with you a PowerPoint presentation that I put together using secondary sources to prove my thesis, which is that mentoring and crime prevention programs is the best approach to juvenile delinquency. I also will be explaining what is a juvenile delinquent and why does it occur. A juvenile delinquent is anyone under the age of 18 violating the law, and in some states, a juvenile is considered anyone under the age of 16. The reason why teens do what they do is because of their mental development and the prefrontal cortex. In adults, anyone over the age 21, the prefrontal cortex is well developed, but in teens, the prefrontal cortex is still immature, and this is the reason why they do the things they do, and explains their unpredictable behavior at times. They have many different theories associated with juvenile delinquency, but this theory in particular, I think, is well suited for juvenile delinquency. This theory is a social learning theory, and it is a theory. It is defined as behavior by peers and influential people. Factors that lead to juvenile delinquency, in my opinion, is children who have no positive influence around them, and children who simply just get caught up in the wrong crowd. Since the crack era in the 1980s, they came up with a lot of crime prevention programs to help juvenile delinquents. On this slide here, I have all the different programs they came up with. And on the next slide in particular, this slide right here are the main programs that really cracked down on juvenile delinquency in the early 1990s. Since these crime prevention programs, 62% of jurisdictions reporting gang problems use curfews or other crime prevention tactics aimed at keeping youth from congregating at night. And out of 86% of those jurisdictions argued that such laws demonstrated at least some type of degree of effectiveness. The person who was responsible for all these changes in the law tackling juvenile delinquency is Nancy Reagan. After she made all these laws, juvenile delinquency clearly dropped 60%. They also used mentoring as well, and mentoring was used because it was effective in helping young people with moral values and eventually reduce their risk of involvement in crime and violence. And mentoring programs such as Big Brother and Big Sister and the Jump program show a positive relationship with troubled youth reduce delinquency. While I was doing this research, I learned a lot of interesting facts about juvenile delinquency. I learned that 200,000 youth are prosecuted each year for nonviolent offenses, and children who spend time in adult prisons and jail are at higher risk for assaults, abuse, and suicide. So this is why juvenile delinquency is so important to me, because you could actually save a child's life by just mentoring them and just guiding them. And I also learned that taxpayers, me and you, spend a total of $102,000 per child per year in training school programs, which is off the nonviolent offenses. And up to 70% of the youth in the system suffers from mental health disorders. And firsthand, I've seen this about youth and their mental disorders. I work at the hospital at Clarendon Memorial, and I see a lot of troubled teens coming in with mental problems and family problems. So this is another reason why juvenile delinquency is so important to me. And this concludes my PowerPoint presentation, and I just have a list of all the works cited I used from my library and from textbooks I used. And I also would like to share a story, well, not a story, but a primary source as well. My best friend, Eugene LaMarcus Parker. We known each other for a total of 7 years. But when he was 16 years old, he got caught up in the wrong crowds, and he actually got arrested for the first time when he was 16. After he got arrested, he was enrolled into a mentoring program and crime prevention program. And since that day, he actually made straight A's, and I have a list of all the accomplishments he achieved. LaMarcus was a USC basketball player for 2 years. He was a sharpshooter for the military in Iraq for over a year. When he came back to the States, he opened up his own business, a car business, just customizing cars and working on cars and stuff like that. And he is now in the process of getting his PhD, and he also has a part-time job as an engineer at the CS plant in Florence, South Carolina. He is currently living in Bennettsville, South Carolina, and he also plays an active role in his son's life. So that's a good thing, because every day he just teaches his child to stay out of trouble. So if you're looking at this presentation and going through a problem with a teen in your family, just keep in mind and utilize all the information I taught you, and everything will work out for the best. And just always remember that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, that concludes my presentation. I hope you enjoy it, and may God bless you. Bye.